I'm Caleb Ross, 35 years old, Senior Logistics Coordinator at Apex Freight Solutions, pulling in $72,000 a year. Not rich, but stable. Comfortable. I own a house. A real house with a mortgage I've been chipping away at for 4 years now. The kind of place you picture when you think about building a life with someone. That someone was Miranda Carter, my wife. Or at least, that's what I called her until everything turned to ash. We met at a friend's wedding 6 years ago. She was sitting at the bar, laughing at something the bartender said, her dark hair catching the light just right. I don't usually approach women like that. I'm not smooth, not the guy who walks up with a perfect line. But something about her made me try. We talked for 3 hours straight. By the end of the night, I had her number and a feeling in my chest I hadn't felt in years. She was 29 then, a dental receptionist, handling appointments and insurance paperwork at a clinic across town. We dated for a year. It was good, genuinely good. We'd meet for lunch when our schedules aligned, spend weekends hiking or trying new restaurants, talking about futures that felt tangible and real. She made me laugh. She made me feel like I was enough. We got married in a small ceremony at a vineyard. Her family, my family, 50 close friends. Simple, beautiful. The kind of wedding where you actually remember the vows because you mean them. The first year of marriage was everything it should have been. We were both working, both contributing. We saved together, bought the house together 4 years ago, painted the walls together. I remember standing in our empty living room the day we got the keys, Miranda spinning around with her arms out, laughing about how we were real adults now. I believed we were building something that would last. Then, about 3 years ago, a year into the marriage, Miranda quit her job. "I'm tired of it," she said one evening over dinner. "The commute's brutal, and the office drama is exhausting. I just want to focus on making our house feel like a home." I didn't hesitate. "If that's what you want, then do it. We're fine on my salary," I told her. And we were. $72,000 isn't a fortune, but it covered the mortgage, the bills, groceries, everything. I wanted her happy. I thought supporting her decision was what a good husband did. So Miranda became a homemaker. She redecorated rooms, met friends for lunch, spent hours on Pinterest planning projects she'd never quite finish. I didn't mind. I was busy at work, climbing the ladder under the mentorship of Paul Nelson, the director of operations. Paul saw something in me. Potential, he called it. He groomed me for leadership, taught me the systems, introduced me to clients. When he announced 6 months ago that he was retiring early to Florida, he pulled me aside. "You should apply for my position," he said to me. "You're ready. You've earned it." I applied. I was confident. 10 years of experience, respect from the team, a track record of solving problems nobody else could. The job felt like mine before the interviews even started. But I didn't get it. Instead, they gave it to Greg Donovan. Greg was 42, the CEO's nephew, and had zero logistics experience. He walked into the office on his first day wearing a suit that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, and an attitude that made it clear he thought he was doing us all a favor by showing up. The whispers started immediately. Nepotism, unqualified, disaster waiting to happen. Greg's first week confirmed every fear. He micromanaged, overrode protocols that had worked for years, and seemed to have a special focus on me. Back-to-back trips, Denver, Phoenix, Atlanta, Kansas City, 4 trips in 3 weeks. When I went to HR to push back, they shrugged. "He's your supervisor. If he says you need to travel, you travel," the HR rep told me flatly. So I traveled. I packed my bag, kissed Miranda goodbye, and told myself it was temporary. That eventually Greg would settle in, realize he was in over his head, and ease up. But he didn't. The trips kept coming. And every time I left, Miranda seemed lighter, happier. Like my absence was a relief instead of a burden. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the stress from Greg was making me see problems where there weren't any. I was wrong, dead wrong. The first time I noticed something was off, I convinced myself I was imagining it. I came home from a 3-day trip to Phoenix, exhausted and irritable from dealing with Greg's incompetent directives. Miranda was in the kitchen, humming to herself, wearing a dress I didn't recognize. Makeup done, hair styled. She looked vibrant, more alive than I'd seen her in months. "You look nice," I said, dropping my bag by the door. "Going somewhere?" She turned, smiled. "Just lunch with some friends. Thought I'd make an effort," she answered casually. It was a reasonable answer, but something about the way she said it, too casual, too rehearsed, made my stomach tighten. Over the next few weeks, the changes multiplied. She started dressing up more often, especially on days she knew I'd be leaving for work trips. She'd shower in the middle of the afternoon and change clothes before I got home. Her hair still damp, her skin smelling like expensive soap. She bought new lingerie, lace and silk hidden in the back of her drawer, things she never wore for me. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was taking better care of herself. Maybe she'd joined a gym or started a hobby. Maybe the time alone was good for her, giving her space to rediscover who she was outside of being my wife. But the rationalizations felt hollow. 2 months before everything exploded, I forgot my laptop charger at home and had to drive back from the office to grab it. I opened the front door quietly, force of habit, not wanting to startle her if she was napping or watching TV. That's when I heard her voice. She was in the kitchen, speaking low and soft, a tone I hadn't heard directed at me in what felt like forever. Flirty, intimate, giggling like a teenager with a crush. "I know. I miss you too." A pause. Laughter. "He's gone all week." "Yeah, tonight's perfect," she said into the phone. I froze in the hallway, my heart slamming against my ribs. My brain scrambled to make sense of what I was hearing, to find an innocent explanation, to believe anything other than what my gut was screaming. Miranda turned and saw me. The color drained from her face. She hung up immediately, her hand shaking as she lowered the phone. "Who was that?" I asked. My voice came out steady, but inside I was crumbling. "Just a friend," she said quickly, her words tumbling out. "Making plans. You startled me." "You said I miss you," I pointed out. "We haven't seen each other in a while, it's just—" She waved her hand dismissively. "Girl talk. You wouldn't understand." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. But the look on her face when she saw me, the panic, the guilt, it told a different story. That night I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling while she slept soundly beside me. My mind wouldn't stop racing. Who was she talking to? How long had it been going on? Was I losing my mind, or was my wife having an affair? I started paying closer attention. The way she angled her phone away when texting, the way she'd leave the room to take certain calls, the faint marks on her neck she claimed were from a necklace clasp, the way her eyes lit up when I told her about another trip Greg had assigned. I'm a logistics coordinator. My job is solving problems with data and evidence. I analyze patterns, track variables, identify inefficiencies. I couldn't approach this any differently. A week later, Greg called me into his office. "Houston, 3 days. Leave tomorrow morning," he instructed. When I told Miranda that evening, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "I'll miss you." But her eyes betrayed her. They looked relieved, excited even. That night, lying in the dark, I made a decision. I wasn't going to Houston and spend 3 days wondering what was happening in my house, in my bed, with my wife. I was going to find out the truth. And I was going to record every second of it. I landed in Houston at noon, checked into the Marriott near the convention center, and sat on the edge of the bed staring at nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from Miranda. "Hope you landed safe. Love you." I didn't respond. Instead, I called Jason Clark, a systems analyst I'd known since college. We'd stayed close over the years, grabbing beers every few months, talking shop about work and life. He owed me a favor. I'd helped him move last summer when his back went out halfway through loading the truck. "Jason, I need help," I said when he picked up. "Can you access my home security cameras remotely?" There was a pause. "Why?" he asked cautiously. "I think something's going on. I need to see," I admitted. Another pause, longer this time. "Caleb, if you're asking what I think you're asking," he started. "Please," I interrupted. He sighed. "Give me 30 minutes, he finally agreed. I sat in that hotel room, hands shaking, stomach churning, trying not to think about what I might see, trying to prepare myself for confirmation of the nightmare that had been eating me alive for weeks. My phone rang. Jason's voice was tight, uncomfortable. "Caleb, you need to see this," he said quietly. He sent the link. I opened it on my laptop, logged into the security system, and pulled up the live feed from the living room camera. Miranda was there, on the couch, with a man. They were kissing. His hands were in her hair. Her hands were pulling at his shirt. They moved together like they'd done this 100 times before, like they knew each other's rhythms, like they belonged to each other. The man turned his head toward the camera. Greg Donovan, my boss. I stared at the screen, my brain refusing to process what my eyes were seeing. Miranda pulled Greg toward the stairs, laughing, and they disappeared from view. The bedroom didn't have a camera. I'd never installed one there because it felt invasive, unnecessary, ironic. I sat frozen for 10 minutes, maybe longer, replaying the footage over and over, watching my wife kiss another man, watching Greg Donovan, put his hands all over her in the house I paid for. Then the fog lifted, and something cold and sharp settled into my chest. This wasn't random. This wasn't some affair that just happened. Greg had been systematically sending me out of town, 4 trips in 3 weeks, constant travel assignments designed to get me out of the house so he could meet my wife in my bed. The rage should have been volcanic. Instead, it was ice. Calculated. Precise. I opened my laptop and started working. First, I researched California recording laws, 2-party consent state, meaning I couldn't secretly record conversations. But there's an exception for recording in your own home when you suspect wrongdoing or criminal activity. Adultery isn't criminal in California, but trespassing is. If I could catch Greg in my house without my explicit permission, I had grounds. Second, I texted Jason. "Don't delete that footage. Back it up. I need original timestamps." Third, I started building a file. Screenshots of every travel assignment Greg had given me over the past 6 months. Emails where I'd objected to the excessive trips. Calendar entries showing the pattern. I documented everything. Then I booked a flight home for 6 a.m. the next morning. I wasn't going to confront them over the phone. I wasn't going to give them a chance to prepare, to spin a story, to get their lies straight. I was going to walk into my house and catch them in the act with evidence so undeniable that neither of them could ever wriggle free. But it wasn't just about the affair. It was bigger than that. Greg had abused his authority to destroy my life. He'd sent me away so he could sleep with my wife. He'd used his position to make me miserable while he violated everything I'd built. And Miranda, she'd welcomed it. She'd played the loving wife while meeting with my boss the moment I left town. They both needed to understand there were consequences. I spent the rest of the night researching employment law, hostile work environment, abuse of power, negligent hiring. I took notes, copied statutes, saved precedents. I researched divorce attorneys, personal injury lawyers, civil litigation specialists. By the time the sun came up, I had a plan. The flight landed at 10 a.m. I turned my phone back on and checked the security feed. Greg's black Audi was parked in my driveway. I drove home slowly, parked 2 houses down, and walked up the street like a man heading to his own execution. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside and heard sounds from upstairs. Muffled voices, bed springs, laughter. I grabbed the baseball bat from the coat closet. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the camera app, and started recording. I needed 30 seconds of footage, undeniable proof. Then I was going to make sure Greg never walked right again. The bedroom door was cracked open, careless, arrogant, like they didn't think they needed to hide anymore. I stood outside, phone in hand, recording through the gap. The angle was perfect. Clear view of the bed. Clear view of Miranda on top of Greg. Both of them naked. Both of them completely lost in the moment. 30 seconds. That's all I needed. I got 45. I saved the video. Backed it up to the cloud immediately. Evidence secured. Then I kicked the door open. "What the hell?" I shouted. The room exploded. Miranda screamed, scrambled off Greg, grabbed the sheet to cover herself. Greg sat up, eyes wide with recognition, his face going from flushed pleasure to pure terror in half a second. "Caleb! Wait!" he started, his voice panicked. I didn't wait, didn't speak, didn't give him time to beg or explain or lie. I swung the bat. It connected with his shin with a crack that echoed through the room like a gunshot. Greg's scream was primal, animal, ripping out of him as he fell off the bed, clutching his leg, his body convulsing. Miranda was sobbing. "Caleb, stop! Please!" she screamed. I swung again, this time the other knee. The sound was worse, wet, crunching, like breaking a thick branch. Greg's screams turned into gasping, choking sobs. He tried to crawl away, both legs useless, dragging himself across the floor. "You thought you could sleep with my wife in my house?" I said, my voice cold and detached, like I was narrating someone else's actions. "While you sent me out of town so you'd have time?" "I'm sorry, God, please, I'm sorry." Greg gasped, tears streaming down his face. "Crawl," I ordered. "What?" he choked out. "Crawl out of my house," I commanded. He tried. He actually tried. Dragging himself toward the door, legs twisted at unnatural angles, leaving smears of blood on the hardwood. He was crying, pleading, begging me to call an ambulance. I turned to Miranda. She was on the floor now, clutching the sheet around herself, mascara running down her face in black streaks. "Get dressed. Get out," I said flatly. "Caleb, please. It was a mistake. We didn't mean—" She stammered through her sobs. "Get out," I repeated. "This is my house, too," she protested weakly. "No," I answered, stepping closer. She flinched. "It's my house. I bought it before we got married. My name on the deed. My mortgage. You have no legal claim to it. Get your stuff and get out before I drag you out." She dressed in seconds, hands shaking so badly she could barely button her jeans. She ran past me, past Greg still crawling toward the stairs, and out the front door. I followed Greg down the stairs, watching him drag himself step by agonizing step, his sobs echoing through the house. When he finally made it outside onto the lawn, I slammed the door and locked it. Neighbors were outside, phones out, recording. I didn't care. I called 911. "I need an ambulance. Someone broke into my house. I defended myself," I said calmly into the phone. The operator asked questions. I answered clearly, precisely. I came home and found my boss in my bedroom with my wife. He was trespassing. I felt threatened. I defended my property, I explained. The police arrived with the ambulance. I showed them the video I'd recorded. Greg and Miranda in my bed, clear faces, undeniable acts. "I have a right to defend my home," I stated. "Castle doctrine. He was trespassing." Greg was loaded onto a stretcher, still screaming, still crying. The paramedics worked on stabilizing his legs, shattered tibia on one side, destroyed knee on the other. Emergency surgery would be needed. Multiple surgeries, probably. One of the officers took my statement. I was calm, cooperative, methodical. I showed him the security footage from earlier, showed him the pattern of travel assignments, explained how Greg had been using his authority to get me out of town. "I came home early to surprise my wife," I explained. "Found them together. He was in my house without permission. I defended myself." The officer nodded, taking notes. He looked at Greg being loaded into the ambulance and then back at me. "You'll need to come down to the station to give a formal statement," he informed me. "Of course," I agreed. They left. Greg went to the hospital. Miranda disappeared, probably to her sister's place, or a hotel, or wherever cheaters go when their lives implode. I sat on my couch, hands still shaking from adrenaline, and called Daniel Park, an attorney whose name I'd found during my research the night before. Employment law and civil litigation. He answered on the second ring. I explained everything: the affair, the video, the assault, the trespassing defense, the pattern of work assignments. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, not cruel, but satisfied. "We're going to destroy them, all of them," he said confidently. "Good," I replied. "Greg will try to press charges. Assault with a deadly weapon. He'll say you attacked him unprovoked," he warned. "I have video evidence of him trespassing and committing adultery in my home. Castle doctrine covers defensive actions," I countered. "Exactly," he agreed. "And we're going to file a lawsuit against Apex Freight Solutions for hostile work environment, abuse of authority, and negligent hiring. Greg used his position to facilitate an affair, and the company enabled it." "How much?" I asked. "$250,000, maybe more. Depends on how badly they want to avoid this going public," he estimated. I smiled for the first time in hours. "Let's make it public," I said. Greg thought losing the use of his legs was the punishment. He was wrong. That was just the beginning. I was about to take everything else he had, too. 6 months later, I sit in my new downtown condo, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a glass of whiskey in my hand. The view is clean, modern, untainted by memories of betrayal. The lawsuit against Apex Freight Solutions became legendary in the logistics industry. Daniel Park built a case so airtight that even the company's overpriced attorneys couldn't find cracks. We had everything: video evidence of the affair, security footage showing Greg's repeated visits during my work trips, email records proving the pattern of excessive travel assignments, testimony from co-workers who'd witnessed Greg's incompetence and vindictiveness. The company tried to settle quietly for $50,000. Daniel laughed in their faces. "Try $275,000 plus Greg's immediate termination, or we go to trial and I drag your CEO's nepotism through every industry publication and business journal in the country," he told them. They folded in a week. I walked away with $275,000. Greg was fired, his reputation obliterated, his name now synonymous with abuse of power and moral bankruptcy. He'll never work in logistics again. Hell, he'll be lucky to get hired managing a storage unit. The divorce was even simpler. I filed on grounds of adultery with video evidence Miranda couldn't deny. She didn't even contest it. She had no leverage, no defense, no sympathy. I kept the house, the savings, everything. She'd signed a post-nuptial agreement 3 years ago when we refinanced the house, right around the time she quit her job. She walked away with nothing. Last I heard, Miranda's living in a studio apartment on the bad side of town, working at a call center making $14 an hour. Her family disowned her after the video made its rounds through their social circles. Her friends distanced themselves. Turns out nobody wants to associate with the woman who destroyed her marriage by sleeping with her husband's boss. Greg's life collapsed even more spectacularly. His wife, Diane, divorced him, took their 2 kids, kept the house that was in her name. His medical bills from the leg surgeries, 2 operations, months of physical therapy, drained what savings he had left. With no job, no references, and a reputation as both incompetent and morally bankrupt, he couldn't find work anywhere. A mutual acquaintance told me Greg's now working part-time at a warehouse, making $16 an hour, still limping on legs that never healed right. He lives in a studio apartment smaller than my new walk-in closet, still paying off medical debt. As for me, I quit Apex 3 months after the settlement, walked into the CEO's office, dropped my resignation letter on his desk, and told him exactly what I thought of his company's hiring practices. Started my own logistics consulting firm with the settlement money, leveraging a decade of experience and professional relationships I'd built. Business is good, better than good. Clients appreciate expertise and integrity, two things Apex clearly didn't value. I sold the old house. Too many ghosts, too much history soaked into the walls. Bought this condo instead, modern, clean, mine. I'm dating again, carefully, slowly. I'm in therapy, working through the betrayal and the violence, understanding myself better. People ask if I regret breaking Greg's legs, if I went too far. My answer is always the same. He systematically dismantled my life so he could fuck my wife in my bed. He got off light, I tell them. Justice isn't always pretty, but it's necessary. Protect yourself, document everything. When someone betrays you, don't just get mad, get evidence, then make sure they face consequences. I'm 35, divorced, self-employed, and free, and I'd do it all again. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.